Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Arcane Secrets of the Craft. This week's episode is episode 7 on 10 pieces of magical advice for beginners. I have a few bullet points to go through real quick. The first is, I don't have a script. I'm actually working only off of bullet points. So this is mostly off the cuff, so I have to be careful of time. Number 2, I'm still working on the large episode for the Great Tree of Witchcraft, and it's still currently about a half hour long, and I need to squish that down to a bare minimum of 15 minutes, as it will not be longer than that. Also, when I was making this episode, when I was trying to think of 10 pieces of advice for a beginner, or what did I want to know in the beginning, what would have helped me along the way, I didn't have trouble thinking of 10, I had trouble of getting it down to 10. So I should have enough material here for a minimum of 3 episodes, upwards of 10, but having 100 pieces of advice stretched over 10 episodes might be beating a dead horse a little bit. Okay, number 1. Why the basics of magic are so important. Now, I tell my students you cannot practice what you do not know. A lot of people will try to run a 100-mile race long before they can crawl. Slow down and learn the basics. They're important now, and they'll be important for the future. I guarantee it. Now, here are the 5 most basic things you should know and you need to know. Number 1, you have to understand the importance of belief. You need belief in magic for it to literally work. It's the fuel for the fire. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Now, you also need belief in anything. If you want to do anything, you have to first believe you can do it. Directly following belief is intent. You have to know how to utilize your intent, because if you don't intend to do something, you're never going to do it in the first place. So you have to learn to focus your intent to achieve your goals. Right after intent, you have visualization. You have to be able to visualize in your mind's eye what you're going to achieve before you achieve it. Before you enact a ritual, you have to know what you want to do, and you want to know how you're roughly going to go about doing it. That's where that visualization becomes very important. It's also very important meditation, which leads us to number 4. You have to know how to meditate. Now, a lot of people say they don't know how to meditate or they can't. In truth, you've actually done it your whole lives and you don't even realize you've done it. But we'll get to that lesson down the line. Just for the basics, because this is what we're on, the basics. You have to learn how to do meditation, how to cleanse your mind, how to ground yourself, how to center yourself. You also have to know how to build up energy. You need to learn how to store that energy in your body, and you have to learn how to feel that energy flow through your body. This lesson is important for everyone, but it has special significance for those of the Great Tree of Sorcery. Number 5, it's important to understand the most basic techniques of ritual magic. Now, magical correspondence is really important, not to say it's everything, but it is highly important, and it will be used in literally every ritual you ever cast for the rest of your life. Number 2, where to begin? What are the best books to start with for studying ritual occult magic? Alright, there are 7 books most people would start with over the last 20 plus years, but in the last 5 years, I think most people would have started with an omnibus book known as the Book of Shadows for the Solitary Witch. It's a very good book overall. Another very good book, probably with the best standing power over 20 plus years, is Buckland's Complete Guide to Witchcraft, otherwise known as the Big Blue Book. Number 3, are labels important in magic? And the simple answer to that is yes. And the simple answer for that is, if I told you I'm a sorcerer, which I have, but I'd never explained what it is, you would have to guess what it is. If I told you I was a witch, you would have to guess what that really meant, because that's really vague. Witchcraft is broad. There's so many traditions to that one. Demonology, or shamanism, or druidism, or wizardry, or alchemy. All these terms have very specific meanings, and the labels attached to them are really important. They kind of tell you someone's designation. Sometimes they'll even tell you a specialty. So that's why the labels that we use are really important. Number 4, Learn a method to learn magic. Everyone learns differently. You might learn really well from just watching these videos. That's how some people learn. Some people learn really well from reading books. Some people will write down what they read to help it solidify in their memory. I, on the other hand, I highlight. I have a highlighting system. Orange is good to know, pink is important, and the hybrid between orange and pink is super important. Then I'll underline things and add stars. So when I go back, I know what was really important and what was I can kind of glaze over. So you have to learn a process for yourself to remember all this stuff. Number 5. Keep a detailed journal. Write everything down. Write down your thoughts, write down your ideas, write down your feelings, write down your dreams, write down your philosophy, write down anything that you think is important, anything that you read that you want to put in your personal notes. Same lesson from before, just a little bit more detail attached to it. Because you don't know what's going to be important. You could write down something that you think is meaningless, but it could be a cornerstone of your beliefs and your practice for the future, and you don't even know how important it is. That's why it's good to take notes. Number 6, what's the difference between white, gray, and black magic? Alright. You could think of this as kind of like a moral compass almost. White magic is magic that will generally affect only you. There's a saying in Wicca, do as you will do harm to none. That's white magic. Long as you're not hurting anyone in any way, you have their permission when you cast your rituals on them if you so wish to, that's white magic. White magic is never going to hurt anyone. Beyond that, we go to gray magic. Gray magic is magic that will generally affect someone else's will for an impermanent amount of time. It could make someone sick, but not too sick. It won't cause death. It could break up a relationship. You could use it in love magic to attract someone to you that you wouldn't normally. Generally, more love magic in that regard is usually like to invoke feelings of lust of someone else, things of that nature. Black magic, on the other hand, is something that's permanent or affects someone's will. What does that mean? You can make someone sick, really sick, like a severe disease or cancer, or death is an obvious one. Even severe injury would be in black magic. It's like they got in a car accident and they became paralyzed because of it. That's a permanent effect, black magic. Breaking up a love affair or a marriage, for whatever reason, makes no difference really for the perspective I'm trying to go with here. Which leads us to number 7. The law of 3, karma, and Aymon. Now these are 3 different principles or 3 different laws of magic that are separated through time, distance, and continents. The law of 3 is the most common one you're going to hear about because people like me and do these videos are primarily practicing Western occultism, so we're taught the law of 3, so that's what we use. There's also an extended version of that, of the law of 3 and 10. Law of 3 states anything you do, good or bad, is going to come back on you threefold. Karma, on the other hand, is more interesting. And depending on philosophy interpretation, it can explain why bad things happen to good people. You may be good in this life. That doesn't mean you were necessarily good in your last life. Karma is not necessarily linear. You could be paying for the sins of your past today, or you could be paying for the sins of your future today. Karma is not linear, but that also depends on interpretation and philosophy to a certain degree. Aymon is a simple philosophy of the law of 3 and 10, which is just if you do good things, good comes on you. If you do bad, bad comes on you. I've found a minimum of 18 different spellings of this. This philosophy comes from primarily West Africa. And I couldn't find anything on it for a long time. So this is one of the harder ones to research. But it's good to know because it's still just another principle of the laws that govern magic. Now, for those of you who think magic is a get-out-of-jail-free card, you can do whatever you want and there's no price you're going to pay, I assure you, you're wrong. Regardless of your personal philosophy, keep in mind, everything is governed by some kind of law. Our mundane world is governed by laws. Nature is governed by the law of nature, the law of the survival of the fittest. The universe is governed by universal laws, light, time, gravity. Everything is governed by some kind of law. Magic is no different. Now, your personal belief in this is not necessarily required. Like, you don't have to believe in air, but you still need it to breathe. You don't necessarily have to believe in gravity, but if you jump off of a building that's 100 stories tall, you're going to fall to your death. Your belief is not always required for different universal laws to affect you. Please keep that in mind. All right, number 8. What do you expect to get out of the practice of magic? Now, this is something you really want to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Are you practicing magic because you want material value? Wealth, health, love, physical possessions? If that's your answer, it's okay. That's low magic. Low magic is a little bit of folk magic, and it's also practical magic, practical things that we need every day. High magic, on the other hand, is more altruistic. They're concerned more with enlightenment, knowledge, and wisdom, and things of that nature. You can do the same things in high magic you can do in low magic. You're just going to go about it in 2 completely different ways. Number 9. Magic is as complicated as it first appears. Yes and no. Magic, to a certain degree, can be very simple and very easy. That's where you go to low magic. Magic correspondences. I use these 2 stones. I put some herbs in a cauldron. I light the right candles. I focus my belief and intent and visualize the outcome, and I direct my will to whatever I'm trying to achieve or bring towards me, and that's what it can be. Now, that said, it can be very easy, but when you get to high magic, it gets very complicated, very convoluted. That's where you have lots of very specific ritual tools. You may have to be in a very specific location at a very specific time. You will have to use the proper astrology, the proper numerology. It depends a lot on what you're doing. So magic, in essence, can be very complicated, but it can also be very simple. My last point is number 10. Your practice today is not what it's going to look like in 10 years or 20 years from now. That you may be having trouble casting the most basic rituals. They may work sometime, they may fail all the time. So you got to keep that in mind. You're going to learn, you're going to grow. You're just like anything else. You're going to gain skills and talents and knowledges that you don't have in the beginning, you learn later on. And over time, you're going to gain a deeper understanding of what magic is. You'll be able to learn to feel the very essence of the ether, the very essence of magic itself. And you will change over time. Your beliefs will change over time. They will evolve. And over time, you will become very skilled. And if you have the dedication required, that means a lot. And it also comes down to just being very comfortable with magic, like breathing. You don't think about breathing, you just do. Same principle applies. Some people will be more gifted at one thing than another. So I wanted to end that on a positive note. And so this seems like a good place to end episode 7 on 10 pieces of magical advice for beginners. So, as always, I wish you the best of luck with your research and go in peace.